Their toys are the same ones that you used to play with, but a whole lot better. I've mentioned a few times my wife and I have a son, and he's now about 4 years old. And of course, parenting, having a child, changes your life in many, many ways, some of which you've been told about, and most of that comes true. And of course, there's lots of amazing things about having children. You get to train them up in the way they should go. You get to learn what a selfish person you are as that opportunity is taken away from you. And you get to learn a lot about what your parents were talking about and all the things you remember them saying and you now find yourself saying. But perhaps one of the greatest things about being a parent, especially to a young toddler, is that you get to play with all their toys. And immediately you start learning and discovering things that you never imagined. The first is that their toys are the same ones that you used to play with, but a whole lot better. And for a car enthusiast, there's nothing that sounds more awesome than the first time your son says, "Hey Dad, can we play with some Hot Wheels cars?" We've all heard that expression or the car guy internet meme that this obsession that we have with full-scale cars starts 97 cents at a time. But imagine the legitimate re-invitation to every time you go to the grocery store, digging through the bins to see what other interesting cars you can now buy with your dollars. And I now do that every time I go to the grocery store. I look to see what new cars are out and which ones I want to buy. And of course, as a car guy, you gravitate towards the ones that look most like real cars, that aren't these crazy, vented hood, insane spaceship cars, but actually look like the exotic cars that we know and love. But what I've learned through this process of playing with cars with my son and building all the different track packs and doing all the things that we could do, all of which are way better than that like chair mounted screw in clamp down the loop and jump that I remember about Hot Wheels cars. Now there's all these insane loops and accelerators and different tracks and structures that you can get, and they all are a lot easier to come together. The little slidey things that connect the tracks work a lot better. You can now integrate Legos and other things with them. So Hot Wheels and Mattel have come an awful long way since the time that I was playing with them, 30 years ago. But it's been so much fun to get to spend time with my son doing that, building the tracks, thinking about different obstacles that we can integrate, and really just doing what I would have loved to have been able to do with more resources and more track pieces and more tools and things, very few of which even require batteries anymore. It's amazing what they've done with stored kinetic energy and different levers and everything. It's so much fun, and it's something I never anticipated. I was so glad when my son started to notice cars and identify cars and be able to pick out makes and models and logos and things like that. And who knows, maybe one day he'll be a whole dyed-in-the-wool car guy like me, and that would be a whole lot of fun. But being able to share in that enthusiasm has always been fun. Early on, when he was very, very young, it was so hard to get him to eat. He would be distracted and eat so slow. And so one of the things that I did to distract him was that I would set up an iPad and play Nürburgring crash compilations for him to watch. And he's like, "Oh, it's Crash, a big crash, all this," because he doesn't know there's any negative outcomes of crashing a car at whatever, a year and a half, 2 years old. So he would have a blast doing that and to make him eat better. And so since then, he'd always ask, "Can I ride in your car around the neighborhood or anything like that?" And we have an awful lot of fun with that. So I'm so glad to be able to share it. But the manifestation of that shared passion in the form of Hot Wheels has been a ton of fun. We built all these elaborate tracks around our basement and all the different furniture and around these corners and doing everything that we could to integrate as many of the parts as we can. And then, of course, you get to see which car is best. And like I said, there's the cars I want to be best, the exotic cars I know have great on-road performance. But one thing you learn very quickly is that they are not. Hot Wheels has built these kind of monstrosities of cars that have gigantic wheels and short wheelbases and low overhangs, and they're way better, unfortunately, at these obstacles. So when you make one of these elaborate tracks work, usually if you've got some Lamborghini or McLaren or Ferrari replica little 1/64 scale car, it probably won't make it, but the little ringer Hot Wheels cars will. So it's a little bit heartbreaking that the cars that we want to be the heroes don't necessarily work, but unfortunately they have these cars that are kind of the designated ones for the stunt tracks, or I don't know what they call them. So we've accumulated enough of those that if a track can work, it will. Of course, they don't work all the time. And I don't know if I'm not good at it, but generally, if I build a track that would take like 20 to 30 seconds for a car to traverse, the odds of it working right, even when I know it is capable of working, are still like 1 in 10. And it takes a couple hours, which is a great quality time opportunity to spend with my son, but it is not something that I would ever expect him on his own accord, even several years from now, to come out and just build this all itself. So fortunately, when we've got friends in from out of town to tell car stories or hang out at the house, it's one of those things that is our go-to activity, is build these elaborate tracks. But my son is very much cheering us on and excited about trying it out. But he's not one that's out engineering these things. I guess it's beyond his age group, and I don't even know what the recommended age audience is for Hot Wheels cars, but it should be for everyone. But as he's gained more and more of an awareness of how the physical universe works and how gravity and momentum and all the things that we can learn from Hot Wheels cars, these educational opportunities, he's gotten better at it and understanding that, well, this needs to be higher than this and this turn won't work at this kind of a G-force. So it is a fascinating scientific opportunity, and it's something that I have really, really enjoyed being a part of. And so we'll continue to make these awesome tracks, and I'll usually post a video of them on Instagram or wherever else. And it's been a very, very quality part of the quality time that we spend with each other. And with each track, we try to raise the stakes and make them more complex and add more initial elevation and try to maintain momentum and use their accelerators and their things that can move a car around a turn to make sure that we get the longest distance and the most complexity that's possible. And it's been an awful lot of fun. So he loves it. I certainly love it, maybe even more than he does most of the time, but we have spent hours and hours, and I'm sure there's hours and hours more enjoyment and thrills to come. And even though we always think that when you have kids, it removes all these old obsessions and the time that you've got for your hobbies away and out of your life, I guess the Hot Wheels obsession just demonstrates that we don't always have to give up our enthusiasm for cars. Sometimes it just takes it to an entirely different scale. We'd like to thank Vincero Watches for supporting VINwiki this month. Vincero makes bold, stylish, and well-priced watches out of exceptional materials, and there's a link in the description below for a discount. So check out their website and find the watch that helps make the statement that you want the world to see.